The evening air in the busy plaza of the city felt colder than usual, though the golden lights of expensive restaurants and luxury stores made the place look warm and alive. People walked past with shopping bags, laughing, talking loudly, and checking their phones, too distracted to notice the quiet desperation. Sitting on the edge of the marble fountain, there, with a worn-out guitar and tired eyes, sat a man whose clothes looked as though they had survived too many winters. His name was Mateo, a father of 2 children who had not eaten properly for 2 days. His fingers trembled slightly as he held the guitar, not because of fear, but because hunger had a way of draining strength from even the strongest souls. Mateo looked around the plaza, taking a deep breath, as if gathering courage from the cold wind itself. Finally, he whispered softly, almost like a prayer, "Déjame tocar. Mis hijos tienen hambre." His voice carried a quiet sincerity that barely rose above the sound of passing cars. Some people slowed down for a moment, glanced at him, and then continued walking as if they had seen 1,000 stories like his before. In cities like this, compassion often moved faster than the feet of those who needed it most. Mateo began to play. The first notes that came from the old guitar were simple, almost fragile, but there was something hauntingly beautiful about them. Each chord carried a weight of emotion that words alone could never express. The melody slowly filled the air, weaving through conversations and footsteps, reaching ears that had not expected to listen. A few people stopped. A young couple paused near the fountain, whispering to each other while watching him. An elderly woman stood still, holding her shopping bag as if the music had gently frozen time around her. Mateo closed his eyes while playing, imagining the faces of his children waiting at home in their tiny apartment. Sofia, only 6 years old, had asked him that morning, "Papá, hoy vamos a comer algo rico." And little Daniel, who was only 4, had tried to smile even though his stomach growled louder than his laughter. Those memories tightened Mateo's chest. But instead of stopping, he played with more feeling, letting the guitar speak the pain he could not show his children. At the same moment, across the plaza, a black luxury car pulled up beside the curb. The door opened and a tall man in an elegant suit stepped out. His watch alone could probably feed Mateo's family for years. His name was Alejandro Valdez, a billionaire businessman known across the city for his sharp mind and colder personality. People admired his success but feared his arrogance. Alejandro walked confidently through the plaza while talking on his phone, barely noticing the world around him. But as he approached the fountain, the sound of Mateo's guitar interrupted his conversation. He stopped, annoyed, lowering the phone from his ear. "What is that noise?" he muttered impatiently. His assistant beside him shrugged. "Just a street musician, sir." Alejandro frowned as if the music itself was an inconvenience. He walked closer, observing Mateo with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. Mateo finished the melody and looked up hopefully, meeting Alejandro's eyes for a brief moment. Gathering his courage again, he spoke with humility. "Señor, déjame tocar un poco más. Mis hijos tienen hambre." For a second, the entire plaza seemed to hold its breath. Alejandro stared at him and then suddenly laughed. It was not a joyful laugh, but a sharp, mocking one that echoed louder than the guitar ever could. "Your children are hungry?" Alejandro said sarcastically. "And you think playing music here will solve that?" Some people nearby shifted uncomfortably, sensing the cruelty behind his words. Mateo lowered his gaze but did not respond with anger. He simply adjusted the guitar and prepared to play again. Alejandro crossed his arms, clearly amused. "Fine," he said with a smirk. "Play, entertain us." A small crowd had already gathered, drawn by curiosity and the tension in the air. Mateo took a deep breath and began a new melody. But this time the music was different. The notes flowed with a depth of emotion, so raw that it felt as if the guitar itself was crying. Each chord told a story of sacrifice, love, and the quiet strength of a father who refused to give up. The melody slowly grew stronger, filling the plaza with a haunting beauty that made conversations fade into silence. Even Alejandro's arrogant smile began to fade. Mateo then began to sing. His voice was not perfect, but it carried a sincerity that cut straight through the heart. He sang about children waiting for their father, about empty plates on a small wooden table, about hope that refuses to die even in the darkest nights. His voice trembled at times, yet that trembling only made the song more powerful. The elderly woman who had stopped earlier wiped tears from her eyes. The young couple held each other silently. A waiter from a nearby restaurant stepped outside just to listen, and slowly something unexpected happened. Alejandro Valdez, the man who had mocked him only minutes before, felt a strange tightness in his chest. The music awakened memories he had buried long ago. Memories of his own childhood, when his father had struggled to feed the family after losing his job. Memories of nights when hunger had also visited their home. Alejandro tried to shake the feeling away, but Mateo's voice kept rising, stronger and more emotional with every verse. By the time the song reached its final note, the plaza was completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Then, one by one, people began to clap. Not polite applause, but heartfelt, emotional clapping that echoed between the buildings. Some people even cried openly. Mateo lowered his head humbly, clearly overwhelmed by the reaction. He had only wanted to earn enough money to buy bread for his children. He had never expected his music to touch so many hearts. Alejandro stood frozen, staring at him. For the first time in years, the powerful billionaire did not know what to say. The laughter he had used to mock Mateo now felt painfully empty. Something inside him had shifted, though he did not yet understand why. And as the applause continued to grow louder, Mateo whispered softly to himself, almost as if speaking to his children across the distance. Aguanten un poco más. Papá está intentando. If this story touched your heart even a little, take a moment to subscribe to the channel, because stories like this remind us that kindness, compassion, and humanity can appear in the most unexpected moments. And sometimes, the voice of a struggling father can awaken the heart of even the coldest millionaire. But what happened next in that plaza would change both of their lives forever.